I have had the privilege to spend a couple of hours bothering the arts people there with several hundred questions. So, Ron, if you wouldn't mind kind of giving us a little bit about your background.
Okay, Jim. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for having me and being with us today. We certainly appreciate your attention. My name is Ron Weaver. I've been with Jacksonville Art Glass about 9 years now. The next slide will show us a brief history of our studio. John Kroll founded the studio in 1980 in Chicago, moved to Jacksonville in 2005, and formed Jacksonville Art Glass in its current location. We had gross sales of $60,000 with 5 employees in 2007, and big highlight of our studio was in 2013 when we became fully accredited members of the Stained Glass Association of America. In 2014, our sales grew to $1.2 million with 18 full-time employees. I think what this says is that we're treating our customers right and we're doing things right.
Which that's great. And after meeting your employees, I definitely have to say that they know what they're doing there. So I was quite impressed. Going on, when is being out there working with the churches and looking at the stained glass windows, I found that a lot of our churches don't understand the problems that there are with their panels that they have in place. You know, they see them every Sunday, they walk past them, but they don't really take the time to get up close and look at those. Kind of give us an overview of some of the problems that that we can have with our stained glass and what things they should be looking for.
Okay, Jim, you're exactly right. People focus on the beauty of the stained glass, and they tend to look past some of the flaws that are inherent to stained glass windows. 3 main categories that we're going to look at here with common problems. First of all, number 1, structural problems. That is within the stained glass window itself. The structural makeup of the stained glass window consists of the lead cane, the solder joints, the cement, rebar, and glazing putty. Those are the basic elements to every stained glass window, and we're going to show some examples here in a minute of some of the problems that occur within the windows in this structural issues. Another thing that we look at when we inspect windows is the problems with the frame that surrounds the stained glass windows. Oftentimes, we run into a lot of deterioration within that frame, and that has to be dealt with along with the stained glass if there's a problem. And also the protective glazing that's on the exterior of the building. Poorly designed system that traps heat and moisture in the microclimate between the stained glass window and the protective glazing, causing the lead cane, cement glazing, and putty and paint to deteriorate more rapidly than under normal conditions. Now, this is right out of the SGAA's Bible. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but this is a huge problem that we face today with churches that people often overlook.
Now, when you talk about the protective glazing, are we talking about the plexiglass that we placed over our stained glass windows to protect them? What is it exactly that we're talking about?
It's exactly that. It can be plexiglass, it can be plate glass, tempered glass, any kind of glazing that's on the exterior of the building that protects the stained glass window.
So all these years that we thought we were protecting our stained glass, we were harming them.
We actually were. Lack of education, the availability of the plastics that's easily manufactured to fit window openings seemed like a good solution at the time to churches. They could protect their stained glass windows, but in fact, without ventilation and without some of the other problems that need to be addressed, they often cause more harm than good.
Right, and that's something that I've seen time after time. Now, when I have seen some glazing that was put on and they didn't seal it, I felt a little bit better knowing that at least we had some ventilation.
Exactly, yeah.
I think now let's take a look at some of the the windows that you've run across over the years, and let's kind of describe some of the problems that you've run into.
All right.
So, here's kind of an interesting one.
We started with the worst one here. This is a window that we literally had to pick up off the floor that fell out of its frame and fell onto the floor. We were able to restore this. It took a lot of work and a lot of extra time because it did fail so badly and actually fall to the floor. So we definitely want to get to the windows before this happens.
Yeah, when we get to this point, then we realize we do have a problem.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Now, what we're going to look at on some of these other pictures are problems that are maybe not quite so obvious as the windows completely falling out, but still problems.
Definite problems.
Kind of describe, as we're going through these pictures, and we'll go through them, fairly quickly, but, what do we have going on, with this right here?
Well, we're seeing the lead cane there. Lead cane, at about 75 years, begins to oxidize, and throughout its life, it stretches and stretches and stretches, but it's not like a rubber band. It doesn't shrink back. It stays stretched, and what we're seeing here is a real serious amount of stretch to the lead that's actually so far that the cement that was once in that lead cane channel is now has fell out of the window completely, and that's actually daylight that we're seeing through here.
So now this
is another example of what happens. The vertical weight of the stained glass and in the window, gravity takes over at a certain point while that lead cane is stretching, and it actually sags. The window, the weight of the window sags downward, and you can see at one point that right where Jim's arrow is there was directly behind that round bar that's right above it. So it's sagged down at least a half an inch there. Something to really pay attention to look at your windows is where the rebar and the saddle bar are in conjunction to where they were once supposed to be located.
Right. Well, this window here, the one thing that I found, is trying to take pictures of our stained glass and to show just how bad the deformation is really tough to get the right angle. When you look at it with the naked eye, it's very obvious. And once you take that picture, it becomes less obvious. So this is, a case that we have here.
Yes.
I know where to look on this, to see where the problems are. But for our people out there that are looking at this for the first time, it's not real obvious what's going on here.
Well, that right there in that center, Jim, in that fleur-de-lis, that blue fleur-de-lis in the center, that is about 3 inches pushed outward. So if you drew a straight line up and down from the top edge of the window down to the bottom edge, that part of the window sticks out 3 inches where it was once straight in a vertical line.
Right. Now, a window of this size, should there have been a horizontal support there?
There is definite lack of support with this window. That's one of the reasons it's in the condition it is. When this window was restored, we restored this window in 2010 and added several rebar in there and structurally enhanced the window.
Right. Now this one is pretty obvious here. Again, we have where we can actually see daylight through here, but what would cause this to actually happen? And
well, it's you can see that dark line right above the daylight. That is the saddle bar that window was once attached to. I don't know if you can make it out, but the wire ties that once held that saddle bar to the window are broken, and we've got a picture coming up that's going to show that a little better. So that structural support has give way, and that window is just going wherever it can go because of the gravity and the vertical weight of it. Now, if you'll notice over there on the left, you'll see some other issues right in, just down just a little bit, where it's ragged down a little bit farther, Jim. Right in there, yeah.
Yes.
That is actually the cement that's leaching out of the lead cane, which happens over time. So with that cement going away and that saddle bar bond broke, that's what happens to the windows. So
this is something that we see quite often,
Yes.
is the cement that has pulled out. You see it out on the edges.
But they have been restored and reglazed and et cetera. Right.
So,
But was that in 1993 when they did this capital funds drive?
okay.
That's my question. Did we have stuff done in 93? And
this is a really good example of how far a window can move. There's about a 2-inch gap between the rebar and where that vertical line of lead came is going up the window.
To be up here.
Just in that one little spot, it's probably an 8-inch spot there that's moved out of plane about 2 inches. So
Right.
stuff that's really easy to spot. You may have to look a little closer in your own windows to see some of this. We're showing major examples and, you know, the worst case scenario here a lot of times.
Right. And then here, once again, we're seeing the
Seeing the light coming
the
through.
light is coming through. This one looks like it's pulled down quite a bit, and the
Mhm.
seam is the came has actually come loose.
The solder joints have broken
Right
on
there.
there. Yeah, they've completely broke apart, and that piece of glass is literally ready to fall out of the window.
Right. So, and as I said, you know, trying to, as you're looking at these examples, for all of you out there, you know, taking the time to look at each one of the windows, you know, as closely as you possibly can, actually getting your head close to it so you can actually see the
Yeah.
It's
deformation
very difficult for us.
is a good idea.
The
Really
inside,
good.
but
They're
the outside.
outside.
Right.
Pete,
And I don't know when these.
could we
covers
get
are on.
everybody to
Once
mute
the
their
covers
phones?
are on, They get to reglazing.
Okay.
Excuse me for just a moment. We're getting a lot of people that are talking that have not muted their phones, and so everybody is getting the conversations that's going on. Could you please do that quickly, and then we can continue on. Thank you. In this particular instance, what do we have here, Ron?
Well, we've got the actual saddle bar going across. The wire tie was actually soldered to that lead cane joint right there, and it's broke away from that, thereby eliminating all the support that it once had.
So, yeah,
Yeah, it was actually
we
up.
have the bar there, but it's not doing us a whole lot of good.
Not doing any good at all there, nope.
So, you know, one of the things, you know, that we understand is individuals are not going to be able to get up to the high windows. I
Right.
know that I was looking at a church just the other day, and I was not able to get to any of the stained glass windows. They were up out of the way, so.
Well, that's why you call Jacksonville Art Glass to do that for you. We offer that service completely free,
Right.
and you know, we'll come and take a look at them for you and give you a full report. So.
That's true, that's true. Good point. Well, here we have, what's going on here?
Well, this was a window that somebody had tried to kind of repair in place with a rebar that didn't attach too well. Very difficult to solder old lead to a new rebar, and that's what they tried to do there, and the bond just did not hold, and the window continued to bow outward and move and cause all kinds of problems. So.
Right. So again, it's good to bring in somebody that is actually accredited, correct?
That is,
Rather than
yeah, that is.
just having.
I mean, if you don't, you really need to know what you're looking at to be able to evaluate. And we do a grading scale for these windows, just like you would be in school. That we offer grades for every window, and that kind of clarifies exactly where the deterioration level is, and kind of makes a plan. We can make a plan for how to fix it from that too.
Right. So in
Another bowing, badly bowed.
bowed window.
Yep.
So.
And this one also, you can see how that lead is starting to turn white. It's starting to lighten up and get little specks of white. That's called oxidation. It's more typical on the exterior of the windows, but it's something that you folks can be looking for. If you see a lot of oxidation, which I mean by that is the lead came really white looking, that leads you to believe that there's a lot, you know, the lead becomes brittle, and that oxidation causes the brittleness, and the solder joints begin to break, and just the multiple problems just continue.
Okay. Now here we're actually looking at the exterior of
Yeah.
this window, and what is all the this light-colored
Well,
material that we're seeing?
we run into this a lot, Jim. Somebody has tried to come in and like re-slurry or give a partial restoration to this window from the exterior. In theory, it was probably the right thing to do. However, they did not get either the old stuff picked out and cleaned out before they put the new in, or they didn't have the right kind of cement, which is possible. It did not stick very well. You can see all the gaps that is in the window now, and you would think after applying as much as they did here, which is excessive, that it would stick better than that, but it just it really didn't. It just kind of was a waste of time in this case.
Well, when we see an instance like this, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Oh my! We've got there's been a lot of water infiltration. You can see it in the wood frame. You can also see it streaking the stained glass up, back there. The water dripping down. It's caused from improper glazing, improper ventilation on the exterior, and also some actual leakage around that frame that's been leaking in there and running into the frame for years. And the only recourse for this is to repair it, cut out all the rot and repair it, and there's no other way to fix it.
So this is caused by the protective panel that was placed over to protect the glass.
That's probably the most likely cause, is that improper ventilation producing condensation, and also maybe leakage around the perimeter, the water getting in there and just setting. It's got no way, without it being ventilated, it's got no way to dry once it gets in there. So it just causes a ton of problems. This is the same window that's in process. We're repairing it with a new piece of hardwood. I believe that's poplar there that we cut into place, and we're going to fix it all up. The profile will remain the same, and we'll paint it, and it'll look good as new, which I believe is the next slide. The good as new, yeah, far cry from where they were. So now that's a properly ventilated storm glaze that there's the vents on it that actually circulate the air from bottom to top, convection, and it's done correctly.
Hard to see, but you can,
there's
up across the top, there's also ventilation up there to allow the heat out. So this is definitely a window system that has been put in for ventilation.
Yeah.
So.
And it's also not only aesthetically pleasing, but it also serves. It's a very structurally enhanced system too that will last for years and years.
Well, that it looks good. It's not the yellowed plexiglass that we see so many times.
That's actual glass there.
So, what do we have going on here?
Well, this is another stopgap method that someone has. The frame itself, the wood window frame, has been moving in, out, up, down, or whatever, and they put a piece of angle iron all the way across the window, which I guess in theory probably solves the structural problem, but looks terrible. I mean, it takes away from the beauty of the stained glass. It's not the the right way to fix it, but they did what they could, and this is happens a lot.
So, we have a lot of our churches, they have the rows up there, and this one looks like it has had a protective covering put in. Covering looks very nice, but I wonder if it was ventilated.
Well, I can tell you for sure it's not ventilated. I've inspected this window thoroughly. It's not ventilated. Back 40, 50 years ago, when this plastic, this is actually plexiglass on there, when this plastic became available, churches started using this a lot to protect their windows, unvented, of course. But the other problem, as you can see, is it turns cloudy, and you know, that's probably knocking down 25 to 30% of the light emittance through that window
Right.
to the inside of the church, which kills the stained glass.
Right.
And not only, and looks bad from the outside too.
So this, I actually recognized this window here. This stained glass is in Jacksonville.
Yes,
correct?
it is.
There at our Christian church there.
Central Christian in Jacksonville, yep.
Yeah, I do recognize that. This was the protective covering before,
Right.
and this is the protective covering after. Now, did you do a restoration on these windows?
We did actually. We did the restoration before we put up the exterior glazing. So yeah, it was all part of the process.
So, well, it's really neat. I actually got to see these windows. So, now, as far as we were talking about, that everybody should take a look at their windows and get an idea of what's going on, and not everybody can get to every part of their windows
Right.
to do that. So, we were talking about the inspection and stuff. Kind of go over that with us quickly if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, here's some of the things that a qualified studio should provide once you call them to do an inspection of your windows. These are really not optional. This is what you should have, and every qualified studio that comes should provide this stuff. High resolution photography inside and out. They should provide a window layout diagram showing where all of your windows are, an analysis of every window using a grading scale, which we'll get to in a minute. Complete measurements, there's our grading scale, the A through F grading scale. Pretty basic, the F, the D's are the ones we're concerned about the most, just like as being parents here, with the D's and F's are no good. Something needs to be done right away. And C's kind of give us an option. We have an option in the C level, and we'll talk about that in just a second here. But all those things on that list you should get from a qualified studio, and it's a big deal that you get all that stuff.
Ron, kind of give our listeners an idea. Should we take and have our windows inspected once every 200 years, every 100 years? What? Can you kind of give us a guideline as to what we should be doing with our stained glass?
Ideally, I would say a lot of stuff can happen in 5 years, especially in this part of the country with the temperature changes. I would say if you had them inspected every 5 years, you'd be in pretty good shape. You wouldn't miss anything. You would be able to get to the restoration process before too much damage happened to the windows if you did it every 5 years. So as a rule, 5 years would be a good number to write down there.
Okay. Well, that gives us an idea of how often to look at the windows, at least on that. So let's see. Well, as far as looking at your windows, the studio, if we've got somebody that has taught a stained glass seminar at the junior college, are they qualified to come in and
Probably not. I say probably not. It could be that they are, but probably not. Here are, I would say, the minimum requirements of a studio. We're fully accredited members of the SGAA. They give us a lot of help. They kind of inspect our work. They're a great benefit to the churches because it forces us to do things the right way. Not that we have to be forced, but it's the church's assurance that things are getting done correctly. EPA, OSHA certified, that's important. Experts in determining full versus partial restorations, which I believe we are very good at. Equipment, do you have the equipment to handle the job? Insurance, and if there is work being done at your church, you should demand a certificate of insurance from the company doing the work, and some kind of guarantee. Oftentimes that part's overlooked when it comes to stained glass, but there should be a guarantee there, and that range, that's a little different when it's compared to stained glass versus storm glazing. But
right. So you
There's
guys-
our Bible right there, yeah.
This is the book, actually, folks, that if you can get a hold of a copy of this, this really helps out. I know that I received a copy, and I've handed out several over the last few months, but it really is a good guide that's put out, by the Stained Glass Association of America of what to look for, with your stained glass. It's a very good booklet to take a look at. So now, when we start talking about this, and of course churches, I've yet to run into one that wasn't concerned about the financial part of it. When we start talking about, do we have to completely take these windows apart and start all over? Kind of give us an idea. Here we're talking about partial restoration, versus a full restoration. What do we do with a partial restoration when you start talking that way?
Well, a window that we go in and inspect, and a window that grades out at a C can be a potential for a partial restoration, which means the window is not removed from the opening; it's worked on right in the opening at the church. It's much more affordable than a full restoration. The timeline, I guess, is around 50 to 60 years is where this partial restoration can become a real valuable thing. Now, what happens is, a typical stained glass window will last 100 years without any maintenance. Now, once you start doing this maintenance or this partial restoration, that same window could last 300 or 400 years if it's maintained. Now, that's been proven over in Europe. They do a very good job of maintaining their windows in Europe. We do not. We over here in the States kind of lack this maintenance thing, and we try to educate people on this is the first place to start. This is going to give you not only save your bank account, but it's also going to give you a lot more life on your windows.
Right. So the partial restoration, when we start talking about partial restorations, that's something that is going to happen there on site.
On site, yes. And opposite of the full restoration. Now this is where the window's extracted out of the opening. It's returned to the studio. It's taken apart completely. All new lead is put into it, new cement, and then it's taken back after all of these processes have taken place. And it is quite extensive what we go through to restore one window.
So not only do you take the window apart, but you also look at the frame that it sets in, and take care of any deficiencies that we have with the frame itself, correct?
We do. We have expert woodworkers that can match profiles. We'll often cut out is typically the sill and a couple of feet up on each side of the sash frame that has gotten water damage. So that part, all the rotted part needs to be cut out. Wood profiles matched, put back into place, and it looks good as new.
So you guys...
We like to get to them before we get to that point, though. That's
right,
the key to it.
Well, some of the pictures that we've got coming up are actually your artisans at work.
At work, yeah.
So, this is kind of give you an idea of what goes on. Kind of give us an idea here. What are we seeing going on?
Well, we're looking at a Praise Angel window that's located in Lewis and Clark College down in Godfrey, Illinois. The panel is 10 foot tall by 8 foot wide, and it is one panel. It's the largest panel we've ever done. Most often, the windows, your windows in the churches, the bigger windows, are separated into panels. This is quite unique that not only is it 8 foot by 10, but it's multi-layered. It has up to 4 layers of glass that's stacked on top of each other to give it subtle nuances of color. So really famous window, awesome window if you ever get a chance. It's in the library down there at Lewis and Clark in Godfrey, and it's a phenomenal window.
So you actually had to remove this window.
We actually took it out of the opening, created it carefully. It was quite heavy.
I see you have a lot of people that were standing around.
We have a lot of onlookers there. Yeah, it was quite the spectacle that day. Everybody was really nervous. Thankfully, everything went off without a hitch. They were impressed, and it worked out okay.
once it is taken out and, you know, crated and taken to the shop, kind of give us an idea what goes on.
Well, this first slide here shows the rubbing being made, and what the rubbing is, it's like a road map. We do this immediately following all the digital photography that we take of the window, but this gives us a road map or a something to build the window. We document lead sizes, glass, textures, all that stuff before the dismantling process begins, and that's what's going on here. The lead came is being removed and disposed of properly. There's one of the examples of a 3-level plating. You can see 1, 2, 3 levels of glass right there.
Wow.
Layers of glass, and you can see how deteriorated and how what poor condition the lead cane was in.
Right.
Those pieces of glass are a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. It's probably the closest thing to a stained glass mural, I guess. As you'll see, there was 303 pieces of glass, I believe, in that little section. It's that little section there, yeah.
That is a lot of pieces. So.
But every one of them is given an identifying number. They all have to go back into the exact placement that they came out of. That's a huge deal. So, hand washing every piece of glass. We wash every piece of glass by hand, and very tedious. This is some of the broken pieces that are in this window. We actually edge glue epoxy these pieces back together. It provides nearly invisible line there. You can't see the break anymore, and it's actually stronger than the actual glass itself.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So.
Here we're actually rebuilding, re-leading the window on top of the rubbing. You can see all the numbers down there correspond to all the little white tags on the pieces of glass.
Wow.
Quite a process.
Getting
a little farther.
This is pretty amazing when you look at the amount of work there. So.
Yeah, it was a lot. We actually had to build a little scaffold system to get up on top of it because the window was so big. And cementing, actually new cement is brushed into the lead cane on both sides of the panel, and then a little bit of whiting is put over top to soak up the remaining. This window was actually put back together using new saddle bar and wire ties. And there's our proud studio, all smiling.
And this is actually an impressive window.
It is an impressive
window. So, so you have all the equipment.
We got all the equipment. Yeah, we got our own lift. We have our trailers, our trucks, and tools, and all that stuff that we need to.
And you're
a lot of scaffolding. Yeah.
Also, you know, within your studio, you put together brand new windows. It's not just a matter of, you know, you take and come up with new art for that. So, which I believe that's what we have here.
That's a new design that's actually a 20-foot diameter window. It's much larger than it looks there, but quite a unique and beautiful window we're getting ready to start on here pretty quick.
So now I know this. One of the things, the questions that you know our people have is, you know, when we're talking about doing a restoration, say for instance we've got a partial restoration, what are we looking at cost-wise? Now I know that, you know, every instance, every situation is going to be different.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is to just kind of get a ballpark figure out there for a partial restoration versus a full restoration.
Well, I can say it's hard to define that as a dollar amount. Now, I can say that a full restoration is about 4 times the cost of a partial restoration.
Okay.
Okay? So if you were going to put that into numbers, a partial restoration would maybe be between $50 and $100 a square foot, where a full restoration would be between $300 and $500 a square
Wow.
foot. So now that's extraction, restoration, everything, all the steps involved, and it's just, you know, every window's different.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, the number of pieces, I could definitely see where the number of pieces come in.
The intricacy of the pieces, how they, you know, the size of them, all that matters. The texture of them goes into play on that also.
But yeah, I know that when we start talking to the churches, that is always a question that comes up. You know, what are we looking at cost-wise? So somewhere between 50 and 150, did you say?
50 and 100 for
100
partial.
per square foot for partial, right?
Yep. And then 300 to 500 for full restorations, as a rule.
Right. So that kind of gives you an idea, a basic idea. You know, when you're looking at the windows, if we have some serious problems, it's going to get expensive fairly quickly.
Yeah, and it doesn't get cheaper.
Right.
That's
exactly.
the fact.
That's the whole thing. Talking about being proactive versus reactive.
Exactly.
So, one of the questions that came up is, can you move stained glass from an old building into a new one?
Well, that's actually a great question, and one that's a very common question in this day and age. We get the aging buildings. Some of the facilities are getting older, and the question comes up, do we maintain what we have, or do we just build a new facility? And oftentimes, the new facility is the route that they go, but they want to take some sentimental value from the old church, meaning the stained glass windows. So we have done this several times in the last couple of years, where we've actually resized windows, taken them out of the old church, resized them, and put them into a new frame into the new facility. And it's quite remarkable when you can blend the old traditional stained glass windows with maybe something a little more modern. It's challenging, but it turns out, so far it's turned out great. We've even used light box LEDs behind the stained glass in a light box form if there is no available exterior walls.
Right. So, yeah, I know that with today's extruded aluminum frames, you can still have the benefit of our energy efficient, double and triple pane glass windows, but they also allow for the stained glass to be put into place with that.
Exactly.
So, it's a combination of, blending our old with our new. So, as we move into the new era, if we move into a new building, we can still take our old windows with us.
Most definitely, yes.
Now, another question we have, do you know, are there any grants available for restoration?
Not that I'm aware of. That question has came up before. I know of a couple people who have looked into that without any success at all.
Right. Should every stained glass window have some sort of added layer of protection? Is that a must?
Well, that's another great question. No, it is not a must. It is definitely not a must. Stained glass has been around for thousands of years without any exterior protection on it. A well-built stained glass panel will be waterproof, will handle the wind load. Now, one of the things that often comes up is the fact that, we're spending all this money on restoration. We feel like we have to protect it. And that's a valid point also. The exterior protection is made to stop any projectiles short of, bullets.
Right.
But stop a projectile from actually getting to the stained glass. It'll break the exterior glass, but it'll slow it down enough to where it won't harm the stained glass on the inside. So it doesn't have to be done, but we highly recommend it.
Now, one of the things that you were showing us with the stained glass piece that came from the college was you were talking about the layering.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way for individuals to look at that and be able to tell if we have layering within that?
It's pretty difficult for the untrained eye. If you're going to look and you can see from the exterior, typically that extra layer is put on the exterior of the stained glass window. So if you can see through the old plastic or glass from the outside, you can possibly tell that there's one or more layers.
Otherwise, it's very, very difficult.
It's hard to tell from the inside. Very difficult.
Wow. So, well, just want to thank everybody that took part in this today. And like I say, if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to take and contact us. The contact information is up at this time. And I promise that we will get back and answer any questions that we have that come up. I want to thank Ron Weaver, from Jacksonville Art Glass. You drove over through the snow, and
it was my pleasure, Jim. It really was.
So, but we really want to figure out ways that we can help our congregations, with the different situations like stained glass and with their buildings and maintaining them, and taking us into the future.
Right.
So,
makes a lot of sense.
Well, at this time, like I said, I want to thank everybody for participating in this. We will be having more webinars coming up in the near future. Look for them on our newsletter and also on our website. So, thank you very much.
Bye.